I got really angry today when I was reading about all of these stories that are desperate to claim Donald Trump refuses to denounce white supremacy. And so they do this clever trick where they're like, Donald Trump refuses to denounce white supremacy. Donald Trump tells Proud Boys stand back and stand by, creating like this manipulation in media where they're trying to make you think the Proud Boys are a white supremacist group. And so what I always say is like, look, man, the Proud Boys are a lot of things and you can criticize them, but they're not a white supremacist group. The media is desperate to play that up. So the first thing I want to ask, as the leftist narrative and the media narrative tends to be, that it's actually right-wing militias and right-wing groups that are starting all the violence. Now, look, I got to be honest. I've only, for the most part, watched your videos to get a sense of what's going on the ground. So let's hear it from you guys. Is it really right-wing groups that are secretly starting all the riots?
No. And I think a really good example of this, actually, a New York Times article just came out, I think it was today, and a photographer, I believe it was, wanted to go undercover to confirm that right-wing militias and extremists were starting this violence, and he actually found the exact opposite.
They published that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It came out today, and I think we've seen that too. You know, you look at Portland, you look at Seattle, you look at some of these other areas that we've been to, and it is very clearly not right-wing militias starting the violence. I mean, all you have to do is go out there later than 9 p.m., 10 p.m. and see it for yourself and talk to these people. They're definitely not pro-Trump. They're definitely, you know,
it's absurd to imply that. Like, it's crazy to me that you guys can pump out hours of videos every time you go to these places, but then you have low information, I guess, I call them low information culture war belligerents. There are people who are online screaming like, we're right, you're wrong. It's actually right-wingers doing it. And I'm like, the only videos I see are like leftist black bloc people and Black Lives Matter going around throwing bricks and starting fires. Yet for some reason, you see all these people on Twitter. I wonder if it's just they know they're lying and they have to. Because, I mean, if they admitted what was really going on with left-wing violence, they'd lose.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake. It's like, I think when people see an image of someone in like militia gear, they just automatically assume they're like a Trumper or on the right. And like Shelby was saying, and actually I was kind of even shocked myself when we actually interviewed these people. These people are actually on the side of the protesters. They're not even on the right at all.
You mean like the Boogaloo Boys and stuff?
Yeah. So a lot of these folks are not even, you know, don't even consider themselves like Republicans. A lot of these folks consider themselves like libertarians and kind of want to like I don't want to say overthrow the system, but obviously want less laws and stuff like that. So that's one thing that, you know, me and Shelby kind of learned on the ground, you know, covering this stuff in you know, different cities too.
But I mean, that's referencing these instances where there have been Boogaloo Boys. I mean, for the most part, it's just black bloc, far left people, right? Like most of the places you've been to.
Yeah, I mean, and Richie and I went to Seattle for Chaz, the autonomous zone, and that was definitely not right-wing people, I would say, but you know, everyone had guns there, and everyone, it was, upon first impression, maybe you think that because of what people would assume about each side, but it's just a false narrative.
I mean, didn't they pump like hundreds of rounds into a pickup truck and killed 2 kids? Or no, one of them died.
Yeah, there were 3 shootings, I believe, in Chaz at different times, and did 2 kids die? 2 people died?
It was 2 kids, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the while you know, reporting in Seattle, you know, a lot of these, to get into Chaz, they had like armed security, and then, you know, while we were there, I was actually able to get one to did a quick interview with me. He wouldn't do it on camera, but I was like, who's responsible for this stuff? And they're like, oh, we're with the John Brown Gun Club. That was the first time I've ever heard. I'm like, the John Brown Gun Club. That's like a left-wing militia.
And
it's a left-wing militia. So right there, I was like, oh, okay, you know, these guys are, you know, about the Second Amendment stuff, obviously when it comes to them. But that was the very first time I've ever heard anything about that. Then I've heard, you know, that name John Brown Gun Club, you know, pop up multiple times after our trip in Seattle.
That's crazy that like they would take the name John Brown Gun Club and then now it's like associated with like Marxists and communists or whatever. You wanted to jump in, Richie?
Yeah, I mean, actually, to be fair though, while we were in the Chaz, Shelby and I did film a video of a couple of Proud Boys, 4 Proud Boys beating up a guy pretty badly.
Really? Why were they there?
Well, basically, we were covering these folks who were bringing in flag, and they
an American flag.
That's right.
So their security were the Proud Boys, and after the flag bearers left, I basically said to Shelby and I were like, well, the Proud Boys are still here, and as they were on their way out, an individual went up and we were a little ways back, so we didn't see the initial confrontation that caused it. But we did run up right as the brawling was starting, and I mean, you can see the video on Twitter. It's pretty brutal. It's a pretty brutal beating they gave the guy.
Wow.
It was like 6-5 versus 1, 6 versus 1.
And actually a couple of the Proud Boys were armed, and at one point in the video, it looks like the guy who's getting beaten actually is leaning for the gun. And that's the kind of situation where I'm looking like, do I have to form tackle Shelby, and are we going to hit the deck here?
Well, so
as she shakes her head,
as the Proud Boys are basically the biggest story right now, I can't believe Joe Biden decided to shout that out at the debate, because I immediately got messages from friends. They're like, "What's a Proud Boy?" And I kid you not, some people think it's like an LGBTQ thing. Like for real, like it was a joke from Gavin McGinniss. It was meant to be silly. Now it's this like legit thing that gets shouted out. And now they're like the big story. So let me ask you guys, out of all of the riots you've been to, you mentioned, in the Chaz shop, whatever, there was an instance where the Proud Boys beat some dude pretty bad. Has there been anything else you've seen across the country? I mean, like not like actually just, you guys can answer. Just leave it there.
That, I think, is the only example that we've seen of the Proud Boys really inserting themselves into a situation like that. Richie went to a Proud Boys rally last weekend, and I think the police did a pretty good job of keeping. Was there even like Antifa there? Or
well, there was a counter protest, which actually was much, much larger by a magnitude of at least 5.
Wow.
Which was just a couple miles away, but it was a really big park. And so, unlike there was a kind of a Proud Boys rally downtown in August, which got pretty violent, which we weren't present for. But that was where Antifa and the Proud Boys, whatever the prayer group, they were clashing.
Was that Patriot Prayer? Or was that really
Patriot? Well, I don't really know exactly.
Riots.
It's hard to tell. It was run by the Patriot Prayer, but there were definitely some people in there who identified as Proud Boys. But this weekend it was explicitly Proud Boys. There were Patriot Prayer people there as well, but it was almost entirely peaceful. There was a very small little physical altercation where they were basically asking the press who they were on the way in, and they were forcing out some Antifa press.
Oh, I see.
Whatever that means. I mean, obviously there's no credentials that say Antifa press, so I'm not sure the validity on that, but there was a small confrontation. But I'd say, other than those 2 instances, no, we haven't seen anything.
That was even, I would say, like, that was a Proud Boys rally, so it wasn't an example of the Proud Boys, going into a protest or a riot and trying to change the direction of things.
Or even start a riot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, even the main thing, the reason why the Proud Boys are even coming up again is because the violence has gone so bad in these cities. Now, this is not me saying, this is from folks that I've interviewed in the Proud Boys. What they've told me is just, the violence is getting so bad in the cities, they feel like they have to come in there and like restore law and order, or at least show other Americans, hey, we stand with law and order. We want this to be restored to how it was. So that's the big thing that I've been picking up, is they feel like they got to come in and kind of just restore something back. What happens, I don't know.
They declared victory in Portland, so I mean, first of all, we should probably describe what the Proud Boys are, because like we're sitting here acting like I can straight up say nobody knows who the Proud Boys are. Joe Biden brings them up, and then I'm just operating under the assumption everybody listening. Yeah. So they're Western chauvinists. They're basically a mixed bag of politics. They're nationalists, and they have previously had violence as a core function of what their group was in terms of their degrees. Do you guys know all the degrees? I know the first. So basically, to join the Proud Boys, first there's like you go to a chapter and you make an announcement that you're not going to apologize for creating the Western world, something to that effect. The second degree, I think, is that you get beat up, they punch you, while you name 5 breakfast cereals. It's because it was a joke. It wasn't a real, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not an actual like gang or something, like whatever. So then I don't know what the third one is. It might be getting a tattoo or something. But then I remember the 4th degree, like the highest rank or whatever, was getting into a fight defending Western values. So there was actually a component where if they went out and Antifa started a fight and they fought somebody, then they got a rank up or something. So they've been, the media likes to very, like, they give no favors to the Proud Boys. So they give favors all day, at least in my experience, to Antifa. Like, Antifa doesn't exist. It's just an idea. And then you get the Proud Boys, and it's like, well, they're far-right extremists, neo-Nazi, white supremacists, alt-right, white nationalists, like every name in the book. They endorse violence, and they're hunting people down. In fact, they're responsible for all of the violence. Like, I was reading CBS today, And they said, the Proud Boys, comma, a white supremacist group, comma. And I'm like, that's just ridiculous. Like, you got to get your facts straight, man. And this is what really, I hope it's clear to everybody listening. Like, if you guys have no problem saying, oh man, the Proud Boys beat up some guy really bad, like, you're giving us the honest take. You're not protecting any of these people. But the reality is, I don't see far-right groups starting riots for the past 110, 120 days. But how is that narrative exists for some reason? You look like you
I think it's, it's what the media wants.
Yeah, for me it's like a huge media creation. It like we were speaking before the show started, is for them to even be brought up at a presidential debate, to me, it was really disappointing, because it's like we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are literally trying to put food on the table. People are wondering if we're getting a stimulus check. And we're talking about the Proud Boys. Like, like I said, if you're in Michigan or Pennsylvania and you're an undecided voter, if there are any undecided voters still, you're just wondering, like, how does this even affect my life? So
what's a Proud Boy?
Yeah, so I think, for me, they're becoming just they got too much free clout off the presidential debate. They're becoming this huge media creation that's not really playing a role in the election. And, for some reason, they're like the number one.
It's Joe Biden
topic. Yeah. So.
I can tell you why.
Yeah.
It's just Donald Trump is the answer. And it's a mechanism by which this violence in our streets can be,
they can blame
him.
Yeah.
And with Antifa, that's obviously not the case. And so the downplaying that you see there, I mean, that's no surprise either. So that's my answer.
Is it Antifa rioting or is it Black Lives Matter?
I think
there's
it's
a mix
both.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, certain cities that we've been to,
Kenosha
there's more of an Antifa presence.
Really?
And in other cities, like Portland, for example.
But they're flying Black Lives Matter flags in Portland.
Yeah, there's a combination there as well. But I'd say in terms of the organization of the tactics and stuff like that, like when we were in Portland, the BLM activists would come up and take the stage right around sunset, and they'd say, I'm not going near that fence. I'm here to demonstrate. And when we come in near that fence and they come out, and when we're violent and we bring them here, then that defeats the whole purpose of what we're doing. So we saw a lot of that. And then, the Antifa folks come out at 12 a.m. when all the cable news, they're no longer live and there's no more correspondence out there. And it's no longer a party-like atmosphere. We'll just leave it at that.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.